Ambapo waziri wa masuala ya ndani Daktari Fred Matiang'i pamoja na mkurugenzi wa mashtaka ya umma Noordin Haji wanatazamiwa kuhudhuria kongamano la kuwatambua wateja wanaoingiza na kusafirisha bidhaa kutoka Kenya ni wafanyabiashara. Lengo la kongamano hilo ni kwa afisi ya kiongozi wa mashtaka ya umma kushirikiana kwa karibu na vitengo vya usalama.
With existing legislation in the country, and I think we straddle a very tight line here, because on the one hand, the need to collect information is very important, but there are constitutional rights such as the right to privacy, issues around data protection, etc., that must be taken into context. But I think what is important is that where necessary, legislation can be reviewed to identify gaps and to address these gaps as appropriate. Because of the time constraints, I think I'll conclude by just saying that the Honorable Attorney General, who chairs the multi-agency team, whose mandate is to curb corruption, the corruption menace in this country, has often noted that it is the lack of synergy and interagency cooperation among law enforcement agencies that compromises the fight against corruption, other economic crimes, etc. So through this Inception Conference, I believe we are beginning a process of identifying practical measures, action plans, a clear policy and a legal framework which will result in a better coordinated and shared vision in eliminating transnational crimes in the trade sector. We've made reference to illicit trade. So I therefore, on behalf of the Attorney General, wish you very productive discussions and give you assurance that the Office of the Attorney General is looking forward to the constructive outcomes of these deliberations and is at hand to help with the development of the policy and legal framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable CS, the next speaker will be the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, whom we have worked together tirelessly towards ensuring that we streamline compliance within the banking industry. We, I think, recognize that systems must work, and in the banking sector, the Governor has ensured that they do. We have, Honorable CS, penalized quite a number of banks for not observing the KYC rules and reporting to suspicious transactions, especially in corruption and issues of tax evasion. So I'm sure he will highlight that and explain to this audience the importance of KYC. Dr. Njoroge. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haji, DPP. CS Matiang'i, delighted to share the platform with you. Mr. Halake, DG Coast Guard, Christine from the AG's office. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think I'm delighted to be here, and thank you, DPP, for inviting me to attend this conference and at least to make a cameo appearance for a few hours. And really to work with you, to support you, and for you also to support us as we take stock of the money laundering risks that we face as a country, and you in particular face in the activities in your day-to-day activities. It's interesting that over the last 25 years, global trade has risen exponentially. It has more than quadrupled. That's global trade. But in Kenya, actually, it has risen much more. In the last 20 years, there has been significant increase in trade, cross-border trade. And a lot of this also because of the liberalization of our trade regime. I think we all remember when things were really, we were in a different regime in terms of tariffs, in terms of export-import controls that were there, in terms of foreign exchange controls. That is a whole different world. Unfortunately, some countries that we work with are still in that sort of general regime. But we have moved much further forward and actually have benefited from that transition, as we all know, as we all have seen. That said, even as you do your work, there's a lot of other activities, money laundering, or you could say other criminal activities that, in a sense, try and mask itself along with the regular trade that you're doing. And it is our business, your business and ours as well, to distinguish this, to distinguish the criminal activity, the money laundering, and end up facilitating the good trade that you are supporting. So the job for us, you and us collectively, is to facilitate trade improvement or increase in regular trade. And what is the vision for us? What's the vision that I want to present to you? If you ask me where we'll be, where I would want us to be in a few years, is in an environment where you can actually make transactions in a 24/7 economy. At this moment, we talk of a 24/7 economy, but we are not there yet. We are not there. And in particular, when you, for instance, make a transaction, it takes place in real time. So you've heard of the real-time gross settlement domestically, but we all know it's not real time. The technology actually is there, meaning actually what we've installed, the installed capacity today is to do real-time gross settlement. But we have not, let's say, turned on those features because we want to be sure that the transactions that are taking place are legitimate and things like that. But even think of, let's say, an importer. You're bringing in your goods on, let's say, Saturday evening or at midnight, and you want to make a payment on customs or whatever else it is. We want to make it possible that you can actually do it in a 24/7 world in real time. But that we cannot do if we have not improved on all the other, let's say, features, and this in particular is the KYC, the Know Your Customer, because that's the only way we can distinguish the good trade from the criminal-related or illicit transactions that may be taking place. So that's a necessary part of the infrastructure if we are to move in the direction that our economy needs to. Now, in terms of the KYC sort of standards, the laws that we have are pretty robust. It's true we can improve them. I don't think the issue is sort of going from, let's say, no KYC rules. The issue is how we apply them, implementation. That is the biggest concern today. And as DPP mentioned, yes, we in the banking sector and we as the regulator have been pushing the institutions, meaning the commercial banks, to improve the way they do the KYC, the way they do their due diligence, the customer due diligence, so that they actually know who you are, who is making the transaction. Now, the second point I would want to make is that this business is being facilitated also by technological change. So in the past, things were kind of manual. But now with technology, you do have platforms that, let's say, the commercial banks, and indeed yourselves, could use to make the job easier. There's a whole bunch of platforms out there, but I think the point for us is we need to use technology. I could actually announce that we have been working with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. As you know, we as central banks work together, and we have chosen the Monetary Authority of Singapore to put together an appropriate KYC platform that works for us. As you can imagine, a lot of trade takes place through Singapore. Singapore is, as you know, the second largest port in the world. And I think a lot of our trade from Southeast Asia and in China will go through that part of the world. So it will help us quite a bit once we put that. But it's not the only technological innovation. There are others, but that we need to support so that we can actually have we can have those checks done quickly and accurately. The point also has to be made that we as actors in this area need to provide information, need to work with the appropriate agencies. And here you could even include the commercial banks that you're working with. They need, when they ask you for various information, it's not a sort of an interrogation. It is actually to help to facilitate the trade that you yourself intend to conduct. So in that sense, it is important that when you begin a certain, let's say, line of business with a new revenue stream or whatever it is, to make the relevant actors, agencies, including commercial banks, fully aware as to what is it that you're doing. Don't wait until